We have an electric dryer that is actually running but not heating, showing signs that the heating element is not working. First thing we want to do when we have an electric dryer that's doing this is we want to verify the voltage. That the voltage that we have 240 volts or 220 volts at the where the dryer whip connects. And if you look at the meter there, the meter shows 230 volts from the hot to the hot, which is correct. So that's showing me 220 volts. So therefore, there's no problem with the plug-in, there's no problem with the breaker. So we verified that the voltage is correct. The most common issue when an electric dryer is actually running, blowing air, tumbling, but not heating is usually this little joule right here, which is our high limit on our heater housing. What happens, this usually blows because it's an actual fuse. The way we actually check that unit is we unplug it. We take an actual ohm meter, and you can see my meter right here. I'm just going to check, make sure verify my meter's working. Listen for the beep. Leads are together. That tells me the meter's working. So now we're going to check this fuse. We have to pull one wire off. We're going to check from one terminal to the next. Hear the beep? That's verifying that the fuse is closed, that there's nothing wrong with the fuse. Okay. So second item's okay. Another common issue is the element actually broke or burned out. Sometimes you can physically see the element that is physically burnt out. So what we're going to do, we're going to check with the meter to make sure that our element is actually good. We have to unplug one wire. When we check this element this way, we're actually going to check the actual thermostat that is plugged into the element as well. So we're going to kind of kill two birds with one stone here. Once again, check the meter. Meter's working, so we're going to unplug the top red wire. I'm going to put one lead on the bottom, one lead on the top. Meter's beeping, verifying that the element's good and thermostat's good. So that's a third possibility that is actually that is good. So that's good. This little unit right here is called our thermal fuse. What happens when this unit actually blows, the unit will not do anything. The blower will not run. It will not come on and do nothing. So my unit is running. The blower is working. So this is okay. I have already verified that is okay. So what we've come up with so far, with it not heating, the unit will come on and run. So now we're going to do a final check. The heating element is looking for 220, 240 volts. We don't have that. So what we're going to do, if you look at these two red wires right here, they go up under the unit, up under the housing, and they actually go to the electric motor, which has a little switch in it that relays the voltage over to the heat element. So the heat element will not come on until the blower is actually running, because if the element comes on with the blower not running, it will burn up because it's getting too hot. So the blower has to be running for the heat element to come on. There's a little centrifugal switch that relays voltage. So what we're going to do is we're going to verify that voltage is actually coming out from this location. And by doing that, you want to be really careful when you do this. Before I do that, I'm actually going to unplug this red wire right here. If you notice, this is one of the hot wires coming out of the dryer whip here. So this is one of our 120 volt legs. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take it loose, because what I want to do, I want to verify that the voltage is actually coming from the motor centrifugal switch. And if you see the red wire, where this red wire from your whip connects to your terminal block, it is actually, if you can physically trace it out, it is actually this red wire right here. It's the one that goes all the way down, and it runs directly under the housing to the motor, and then it comes out of the motor and comes back to the bottom of the element. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to verify that the voltage is actually coming back out of the unit here. So now that I've got that wire unplugged, I'm going to plug the whip back up. I'm going to turn the unit on. And the reason that the unit is running, the electric motor is only 110 volts, so that's all it needs to run the motor. The element cannot come on. So what we're checking, what we're verifying is that this red wire right here is actually making a complete circuit. I can't check it because I physically have it unhooked up here. So what I'm doing, I've got the unit running. The motor is actually blowing. You can hear it blowing. So now I'm going to check to see if it made a complete circuit. And the way I do this is I put my meter, use the ohm meter, and verifying that my meter works. You can hear the meter working. There you go, with the leads touching. And now I'm going to check. I'm going to put one lead here. Now the unit is running. Be very careful when you're checking. All I'm doing is making sure that centrifugal switch is working and relaying voltage. So what we're doing is we're going one lead here, one lead to the dryer connection right there. Hear the meter beeping? That tells me that the motor's running, the switch is relaying the voltage. So when I hook this red wire back up, which is actually hot right now, it's going to relay the 240 volts. So I'm going to unplug it really quick, and I'm going to hook my power lead back up. I verified that the centrifugal switch was working without checking for voltage by using an ohm meter. That checked okay. Now I'm actually going to check that circuit now that I have it hooked back up to verify that I have voltage coming through there. Make sure you switch your meter back to your electrical settings. Take it off ohm meters or it will burn your meter up. So here we go. So now we're going to go from this lead right here, this terminal. Notice the other one is still unhooked purposely. We're going to go from this lead, and now we're going to go to the center ground there, and I should have at least 120. I have 110, which is correct. So that tells me that that centrifugal switch in the motor is working properly. Now, I verified that that was working. Now, while the unit is running, we want to see if the other wire that is unhooked, we want to see if it has 120 volts on it with the unit running. So we're going to go back from the center neutral, and we're going to go to that terminal right there. And we have 110 volts. Okay, so this tells me that We have 110 here and we have 110 here. So that tells me my 220 is present and everything is actually working properly like it should. Now I'm going to unplug the unit and install the other wire. This other wire that I just plugged in is actually fed off the left side here. As you can see, that's where the other 110 volts is coming from to make the 220. So now we're going to plug it up and I'm going to show you what your voltage should look like on your actual element. So now the unit is on. It's on the heat setting. And here we go. So now we're going to check with our meter on our volts. And now we're going to go from one hot terminal. Now this is 220, so be very careful where you put your leads. We're checking the heating element to see if there's 220 or 240 volts. And we have 215, which is the voltage at my current home. So that is correct. The heating element is heating. You can physically feel the heat, and you can actually look up under here and you can actually see your heating element getting warm. Do not run your unit other than testing it with the back off, because it's very important that the air is pulled through the element to keep the element cool. With the back off, it cannot pull the air through the unit. So to verify what we've just checked here, the centrifugal switch is working in this unit. The voltage is being relayed. Also, the voltage is being relayed through the timer, which is on our top wire right here. So we verified that is working. Voltage from the timer, voltage from the centrifugal motor switch has to be present to provide the 220 volts for the heating element to work if all other switches are working. If your element's good, if your high limit switch is good, and your voltage is present, if all those are working, then the dryer should be heating like it's supposed to.